Good evening. Welcome back. Welcome back. We are back with the Salute to Troy podcast brought to you by Bet Online. And today, my host, I have the smartest man in the LAFB network with the 6.7 GPA. He's probably the only one who's ever done that. He's been at every prestigious university in the land of California, let's just say. My man, Mad Dog, Jamal Madni. How you doing today, Jamal?
Well, great to be here, Alfred, with that such a warm introduction. And this is my first time on the show outside of a live stream. So really excited to be with you as always. I don't know about the smartest man in LAFB. I'll tell you, the person with the deepest analysis and the greatest knowledge of X's and O's on LA Football Network is far and away you, Alfred. So the honor is mine to be here tonight.
Thank you, man. Thank you. Before we get started, I just want to let you guys know that the Salute to Troy podcast is brought to you by Bet Online. Bet Online is where all the game stoppers. We got the NFC and the AFC playoff championship going on this weekend, and that line for the AFC game is like the stock market. It is gone everywhere. It has gone even. Bengals 2.5. It's now Chiefs 2.5 on the Patrick Mahomes practice full speed release. So if you want to lock in those odds and get the best odds for this weekend, go to betonline.ag, put in promo code BLEAV, that's BLEAV, where they'll match 50%, and tell them LAFB sent you. Jamal, let's get to the upfront thing. Let's just talk about what we've been talking about all year. We're probably going to talk about it all year because we're committed to doing a year worth of shows, and we're not going anywhere. We're going to be in your ear for the rest of the year. So let's address the elephant in the room. Let's talk about up front, the Trojans, what they have up front. I will say this. And when we say up front, we're talking the box. We're talking linebackers, defensive line. I will say this. What they did this offseason, as far as transfer portal and as far as recruiting even high school kids, I really like what they did. I think they went and got 2 linebackers that fit their scheme and could play well in the Pac-12. And I think they recruited some guys up front that will grow. And what they have coming back, they weren't far off up front, right? Like they led the nation in sacks, and they had a lot of young guys making plays. They weren't far off. I think they just needed to make a few tweaks and they got it done. So their offseason moves, Jamal, were really, really good. I give them if I was a grade, I'll give them high A for what they did up front in order to improve what everybody says is the issue for Alex Grinch defense.
Yeah, Alfred, I think you said it best. I mean, if we sort of break this thing down, I think there's sort of 4 names that come to mind of these additions with this sort of previous pedigree of college football or just being very highly decorated recruits who played at this level last year. I think at the backers, we're very excited about Mason Cobb, the transfer out of Oklahoma State. I think he comes into a situation where he played at Oklahoma State, that open Big 12 style. That conference runs elements of the air raid. And so to kind of come to USC in a similar situation with Alex Grinch, he was a monster at Oklahoma State last year, over 100 tackles. He was far and away the Cowboys' best defensive player. He now comes at linebacker. And then you got the other guy who I know you're even higher on is Jamil Muhammad. And he just seems to be this athletic sideline to sideline type of backer who's going to be able to do a lot of different things. And then I think when you pair those two with the returners of Gentry and Shane Lee, now you have sort of a quartet where you are now above average at this position, where I think over the course of last year, they were average at best and then had their moments where they were below average. And then now when you look at the defensive line, I think the big X factor here, Alfred, is Anthony Lucas. I mean, what do you get with this guy? He had 10 tackles all of last year, barely played at Texas A&M, one of those decorated 5-star recruits out of A&M. And so can he put it together? And I mean, it's 10 stars, Alfred, between Anthony Lucas and Corey Foreman, and neither guy has really put it together yet. And so if one or both of those guys puts it together, that's an additional 10 stars that you have at defensive line. And so it can really take things to the next level. And then, of course, you've got Jack Sullivan from Purdue, played in that tough Big Ten, ended up having to go up against the offensive line.
I like his film.
Yeah. So I think that those are the four: Lucas, Sullivan, and then you go and look at Muhammad and Cobb. Those are the four that I'm really excited about because, like you mentioned, Alfred, SC loses some key pieces. Obviously, Tuipulotu, Figueroa was serviceable. Brenden Pili was serviceable. So you're losing three rotational folks in the defensive line and in that front seven. Goforth obviously transferred as well, but I don't think we were necessarily, he was a serviceable linebacker, but nothing to write home about. I think they've upgraded. And now the question is, how much have they upgraded to sort of offset where they started from defensively to really make this a complete team in 23?
Okay, so I'm going to break it down to you. I'm going to tell you how right now SC gets better on defense, right? So Shane Lee's coming back, Gentry's coming back, right? They're no longer linebackers. They're now defensive ends. You get what I'm saying? Like Gentry's a fast defensive end. He's a Bruce Irvin now. Shane Lee's a faster defensive end who's a little bit more stronger. Now he's more serviceable. Now you're fast off the edges. Even if they don't get a lot of reps, second down, second and long reps, second pass reps, third down reps, like if you put them in those situations more often than not, you're going to get a bunch of reps. Like maybe Shane Lee could be a run stopping defense end. I can't see Gentry being a defense end, but I could see Gentry getting 10 sacks running around the hoop. You know what I mean? So then now you're talking about, and the guy you're talking about, you said 10 stars is number 0, right?
Yep.
So
Foreman is 0, but Lucas is number
Lucas
5.
is coming from a Foreman, right? So I like the upside on Corey Foreman, right? He made plays last year where you were like, oh, he's good. Like he has potential. He's only a freshman, right? If I'm not mistaken.
Well, Alfred, he's 2 years, so he's going to be a junior coming in now.
Okay, so he's going to be a junior, which is fine. He still has 2 more years, and if he was there for COVID, he necessarily gets 3 years because he gets his COVID year back. But neither here nor there, he showed flashes of what he's able to do, and he had sacks on the season last year. You put him at inside 3 tech or anything like that, he becomes a force to be reckoned with because now you're going to have to slide and protect that fast outside. And now he can make things and win his one-on-ones. With Lucas, and I told this to Ryan, and when I was on you guys' show, I said this too. I'm not very high on Lucas because on Lucas's film, he seems kind of jittery. Like he's not going. Like he's kind of like, should I? Okay, I'm going to go. And that's either just him unsure of what he's doing or him not knowing the playbook. Maybe if it was easier, in which I think Alex Grinch's defense for the front is mostly easy, he could just fly and go, right? So I'm not selling him. The guy from Purdue, though, he is a tough, gritty, hard-nosed guy, and him in the middle playing 1 tech or even 3 makes a lot of issues. Now you got Cobb and you got Muhammad. Muhammad is playing outside backer, flying sideline to sideline, making a bunch of plays. But Cobb is a middle linebacker now that could run with a receiver or could cover a running back. You just got so much faster, so much athletic on defense. Like, you don't have to worry about, and they're both for sure tacklers now. Like, so you answered all your questions within a couple players and moving 2 guys that you already had just down to the line of scrimmage. You just became better. You know what I mean? Like, so when I see that, I'm like, that's why I said they did such a good job because they needed to fill in pieces, and they filled in those pieces to where they don't have to make anybody mad because those guys could still stay on the field and make plays.
No, it's a great point, Alfred. And I think the real big takeaway for me of what you're saying is this ability now to unlock Gentry to rush the passer, which is really his skill set to begin with because he's longer, he's faster, he's a little bit more wiry. And now you've got, whether it's guys with hands in the ground or not, but you basically have a quartet of pass rushers here between Lucas, Sullivan, Foreman, and now Gentry. And you kind of put that four against any sort of an offensive line in the Pac-12. And now it's sort of kind of scary athleticism in terms of what is possible. And they can just pin their ears back and go because they have that confidence on the back end with the likes of a Cobb and a Muhammad. Oh, okay, these guys actually know what they're doing back there and really know how to play the linebacker position. So I can be this specialist and really pressure the line of scrimmage accordingly. So the question I have for you, Alfred, is how much better is this defense going to be in your estimation? It's still very early. And does it get them over the top? We know what the offense is going to be. We know what Caleb is. But does this defense now get this from a 3-loss team to a 1-loss team? Or have they done enough defensively to be absolutely a CFP team next year?
100%. So all they have to do is replace a corner.
Yeah.
Right. So them replacing the corner, having a young defensive backfield that led the nation in interceptions. So they're reloading. Like, they're not even replacing that D line. They're reloading that D line.
Yep.
Right. So if you unleash, like you said, if you unleash Gentry, you put Shane Lee down there, they're reloading that D line. Okay. Now all they have to do is replace one guy in the secondary, which is so much easier than replacing two. You know what I mean? Now, so to me, they have potential right now, right? And this is just an estimation, and I'm not saying it's going to happen, but they have potential to be a top 25 defense now because they're like I said, they put people in places that works for their defense. Shane Lee doesn't work as a linebacker in their defense. Shane Lee works as a defensive end in their defense. Same thing with Gentry. Gentry was an okay linebacker. Like I liked how he played and it worked because he was a long-rangey guy and he was able to run. But Gentry gets drafted for third round as a defensive end because he's Bruce Irvin-like. And Bruce Irvin was a second first-round draft pick. So like a lot of things change with just a change of a position. They have potential to become a top 25 defense. And this is why I say that. As a defense in today's game, you don't have to dominate. When you dominate, your team becomes unstoppable. But how many times are you able to overcome a mistake, right? So if they're able to overcome mistakes, and last year Caleb Williams only had 4 mistakes, right? There was about 3 fumbles. How many mistakes are you able to overcome?
Right.
And if they're able to overcome mistakes, then they become a CFP team. Now, are they ready to be a CFP team? Last year, if you heard me say it multiple times, no, they're not ready to be a CFP team. I don't know yet. I need to see because there's other things on the other side of the ball that they need to do, which is very small twitches. But like, if they do those other things, maybe they can be a CFP team. But defensively, if they do these small things and schematically they start to make sense, their defense could hold other offenses. And now you're looking at them like we're talking about them playing, in a New Year's Six bowl, which is a semifinal game.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense, Alfred. I think the one element there, I'm not even sure they need to really replace anyone in the secondary with guys they don't already have. Obviously, losing Blackmon, he was a stud and really probably the best cover corner. I think Bullock was a great ball hawker and being able to kind of track balls down for those interceptions. If Blackmon was the guy that was going to get into your face and really compete, the question now becomes, does 5-star Domani Jackson from Mater Dei slide into that role very seamlessly and take that role on as the primary cover corner? So they have the talent in the building already. It's not necessarily like they need to go get somebody else to be able to fill that slot. It's just going to be a matter of experience. Alfred, question for you, and I'm really fascinated to hear your thoughts on this. Given what we're talking about here in terms of these additions, given what this allows this defense to do now in terms of solid linebacker play, more pass rush, more speed, more athleticism, when you look at this schedule in 23, it's a harder schedule than it was in 22. You got to go up against Michael Penix Jr., Bo Nix. Let's not forget Sam Hartman, the great quarterback from Wake Forest, now is the quarterback at Notre Dame. There's some elements here. You know, you got to see Delora again. You got to see Cam Ward again. You've got Cam Rising again. Is there a particular quarterback or a particular style of quarterback that still makes you nervous with this new personnel? Or do you think it's this team is going to be pretty consistent defensively regardless of quarterback style?
I think a Cam Rising doesn't scare me because he's not so much of a scrambler. He's a play extender. Yeah. Right. So Cam Rising extends plays. So he's going to do whatever he does not to get sacked. If he has to scramble, he's scrambling to get out of bounds. He's not scrambling to run a touchdown. Penix Jr., Delora, Deion Sanders kid, Sherrod Sanders. I'm trying to go do it. They don't have to play DJ. Bo Nix is a more of a pocket passer. Arizona State's quarterback is a scrambler. Yeah. Those guys worry me in this defense more than play extenders, because play extenders we can apply pressure. And that's what I noticed watching last year's game. Play extender guys, we can apply pressure. If pressure's applied, we're good. When at times when Utah's a perfect example. That's probably one of the few games where we have very few sacks and not very much pressure applied, and we let Cam Rising do what he wanted to do. And he also got the ball out quick, which is also a scheme thing, right? So those guys don't bother me. The guys that bother me is the guys that make plays, because you got to understand, there's one less linebacker in today's game and one more DB because there's more receivers, right? Yeah. So that's where it gets weird. And so those play extenders, they figure out where to, not extenders, but those guys who are trying to run for touchdowns, those guys scare me more. But with the likes of a Gentry on the edge and a Shane Lee on the edge, those that my fear comes down a little bit. When you have Cobb and Muhammad as a linebacker, they can run those guys down now. You know what I'm saying? So if you look at last year's defense, a runner will go. This year's like, okay, I'm not so much worried about it because I have a fast edge and I have fast guys at linebackers. So that will be the change that happens. I'm predicting. So that's the change that happens, to where those guys who like to run, not extend, but those guys who like to run should be able to be contained now.
That's interesting. How do you think it stacks up a little bit with those pure pocket passers, right? Like Penix Jr. can run a little bit, but it's the arm. Like Hartman from Notre Dame, it's the arm. But these guys kind of want to stay in the pocket and let loose and really exploit that secondary. How do you think that style of quarterback is going to do? Because it seems like we're going to be able to get more pressure on the quarterback this year. We're going to be able to reduce the amount of time quarterbacks have in the pocket, reduce their level of comfort. But how do you feel about these guys with these quick releases, guys who are used to 50, 55, sometimes 60 attempts in a game, 400, 450 yards in a game? They're sort of just comfortable with getting the ball out and peppering it all over the place. How do you think this defense matches up with that style of quarterback? Because we're going to see a few of those guys between Notre Dame, between Washington. Bo Nix is a little bit of a hybrid. You don't know what UCLA is going to throw if Dante Moore is there. A lot of these guys are more pocket oriented. So how do you feel about that?
That actually was scared, and I can only go off of Alex Grinch scheme last year, right? So that is actually more of an issue for me as far as the kryptonite for the defense, right? Yeah. So the Kincaid got 200 yards. He wasn't running deep routes. His routes were 5 yards, right? So the catch and throw is the issue in the defense. So that overall needs to be fixed, and that worries me, right? They don't fix that, then now we have things to worry about as far as like when we have to play a Michael Penix Jr. or we have to go to Notre Dame, right? Like, are we getting better schematically? And we have to get better schematically in order for this whole thing to work. Like, it does no good. It does no good to have all these players and these pieces in, and we still not covering the underneath route. You get what I'm saying? So that's the whole issue. Like, so that does worry me a lot, but I haven't seen it, and I don't know what changes they've made, but they have players to where they can make changes. So I believe that they made these moves to where Muhammad is pick 6 and those types of things. You know what I mean? Or Cobb is up under there. Because here's the good thing about Muhammad and Cobb. They get an interception. They're most likely scoring.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Or if they don't score, they're running the ball a long way before they get tackled. So that's the whole difference that you're going to see. Like, these guys could cover a lot more. So hopefully the plan is, and this is what I'm seeing, the plan is to keep those quarterbacks with the ball in their hand a little bit longer so we could create sacks and we put other teams in a lot more third down opportunities. But Jamal, before we move forward, I just want to let you know I'm a big time breakfast dude, and I have to be on site at 5:30 in the morning. So I had to start cutting my breakfast out. I was introduced to Athletic Greens, and Athletic Greens is not only keto friendly, not only has a bunch of vitamins, not only affordable, but it keeps me full until we eat lunch at 9 o'clock. So I'm not putting a bunch of junk in my body. I feel a lot better, have a bunch of energy. I could get through the day. There's no such thing as a 2 o'clock wall for me. Athletic Greens is doing all of you guys a favor. They're going to give you a chance to experience the same thing I'm experiencing. To make it easy, Athletic Greens is going to give 1 free year supply of immune supporting vitamin D and 5 travel packets with your first purchase. All you have to do is go to athleticgreens.com/salute-to-Troy. Again, that's athleticgreens.com/salute-to-Troy to take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance you need. So,
Love
yeah.
it.
Yep. So, yeah, what I was saying was, like, with those linebackers, I think it solves the Utah problem. It solves the Penix problem. It solves the underneath problem because those guys could carry routes better. Those guys could cover better because they're just a little bit more athletic.
How do you, Alfred, it's interesting. One of the areas where I think the defense also struggled last year that didn't get as much attention as some of the past deficiencies and the narrative around Grinch and the scheme was they were susceptible to getting controlled by tempo with the run game. I mean, even when you look at the very first drive of the season, Alfred, with Rice, if you recall, the very first drive of the season, Rice had it for like 17 plays and marched, 8.5 minutes before they punched it in. When you look at some of the things that Tulane was able to do with Spears, who had over 200 yards on 17 carries. When you look at some of these other teams, what they were able to, Arizona State was able to run the ball really well. Fresno State was able to run the ball really well at times. So how do you see this personnel now with those teams that may just turn around and run the football? So if Cam Rising is going to be contained as a passer, but he turns around and hands it off to Jaquindon Jackson, how do you think this defense holds up against just sort of ground and pound?
That's 100% on Alex Grinch. It's numbers, and I'm pretty sure you've heard me give this spiel a whole bunch of times. Like, man, them dudes cannot count. It's numbers, like it's basic like this. There's 5 offensive linemen, right? And so if I put 5 people in the box, there's a hat for a hat. I'm not going to win the run game. Like, I've always got to have 6. I always want to be +1. And hopefully Alex Grinch could get to +1. If he's at +1, there's nothing to worry about, right? Just play 4-2-5 and get to +1 and have a 6-man box. And now you're stable. And I think that answers some of your run game problems. The other stuff, they're going to have to go to Oz and get what the 10-men got. Like, they're going to just have to get some heart. You know what I mean? And it's an old saying. It's an old saying in coaching, like, it's loud in the box. And it's really loud in the box. You know what I mean? And so they're just going to have to just, gut check time. Like, that is not a reputation you want. And UCLA had that reputation for a long time, and I'm kind of happy Chip Kelly got that reputation off of them. But you don't want it to be the reputation of being a soft football team. It's not very good. So hopefully, like, here's the difference, though, Jamal. We're going to expect a lot of sacks which we might get a lot of sacks, but it won't be like it was last year because you had a phenomenal guy on that defensive line last year. But we're going to get sacks, and we're going to maintain the quarterback. But we have to be right schematically. You know what I mean? So, and I'm going to say this again. I said they put the right pieces on their roster to do what they want to do schematically. So, hopefully, that to stop the run, it's on Alex Grinch. Put 6 in the box. 6 in the box answers your question 100% of the time.
There you go. There you go. I mean, it makes perfect sense. And Alfred, I mean, basically what you're saying is, look, the talent is there, the scheme is there. Now it's just a matter of executing and having the coaching judgment to put these guys in the right spots. Do you feel like there's any doubt in 23 that if for any reason this defense does not play to expectation or loses a game or two for this team next year, that Alex Grinch is gone? I mean, are you for sure that it's 23, like it's put up or shut up time for Alex Grinch?
It depends on the loss. It depends on the loss. if he's solid all year and it's just one of those games where defense has a bad day or they have a bad day or two, then you know what I mean? Like if they have a bad day in the season and they lose 2 games in the season, or they have a bad day and they lose their Pac-12 championship game and the game of the season is just a bad day, but the score is like 35-21. Like it all depends on the loss. And then they go back and dominate during the bowl game. Everybody's going to forget. Winning is the best cure-all for everything. You know what I mean? Because if they go undefeated and national champion, Alex Grinch keeps his job, right? But if they give up 40 points a game and they lose to Tulane in the last 5 minutes of the game, he's done. Like, so it all depends on the loss, and it depends on his performance, and it depends on what he does schematically. And I was one of his biggest critiques. And at one point last year, I was like, all right, he's starting to figure it out, but there's points in time where he's schematically bad, and he has to get better schematically. And people are picking that apart. You can't go against these guys who are very, very smart offensively and think you could just get away with bad scheme. They find it and they abuse it. Like, look at Willingham. He abused the 5-yard curl and got a tight end drafted probably in the first round off of bad scheme. All you had to do was just cover him. You know what I mean? But he had so many holes. As long as he fills those holes and they play better football, he's fine. 2 losses isn't the end of the world. It depends how he loses those 2 games. Because look, check this out. Caleb Williams could have a game, knock on wood, where he turns the ball over 4 times on their side of, you know what I mean? That's not Alex Grinch's fault, right? So there's certain things that stipulation. It's the product, and I always say this: what product are they going to put on the field? Lincoln Riley was brought here because Clay Helton put a terrible product on the field. The product that we saw last year was amazing, but there was a default, right? It was the beta version, I guess you could say. So hopefully they made the edits on defense. And if he does the right things and he studies and he learns from his mistakes and he doesn't become an old dog and he tries to learn new tricks and he fixes his scheme, I think he's fine. It's 100% on him if he wants to keep his job or not. He has the pieces in place, so there's no excuse now.
No, it makes sense, Alfred. And, you know, I think we're all on the edge of our seat to see how this thing plays out. I'm getting very excited about the possibility of this defense, given all of the different dimensions and the potential. I want to ask you, as the true USC expert on our network, how excited are you about this defense in the past, let's say 5, 7, 8 years? Where is your level of excitement rank going into a season just on the basis of the defense over the last, let's call it, handful of years, all the way back 10 years? Where is your sort of excitement, anticipation, expectation relative to years past?
So we're saying back 10 years. So 23, we're saying back to 2013.
Yeah.
And that's not Adoree Jackson, all them, right?
No, Adoree was there. Adoree was there in 17.
All right. So those teams had defense. Those teams they weren't great. They were talented though, right? I mean, this has potential. Well, this has potential to be the.
No one is going to confuse this defense with 08, right?
Yeah.
With Ray and Keith, and Cushing and Matthews, and I mean, that's a different stratosphere. That was, to me, the greatest defense USC has ever had in my lifetime was that 08 team,
right?
Where two teams scored more than 13 points the whole season. So it's a far cry from that. Obviously, then the sanctions hit in 09 and 10 with Barkley. It was a little bit lighter with the depth. Kiffin comes in. That's where that S word started coming in a little bit. That bad S word, soft with Kiffin a little bit in the trenches. Then we sort of segued into 13. And then, things started coming back with the depth coming back. But how do you see this defense kind of rank in the last handful of years?
I can see this being the trend-setting defense that makes it like what SC has been in the past. A dominant safety, dominant linebackers, and a good defensive line. Like, you know what I mean? Like, they have the potential to make SC is what it was in the past. Like, they have a dominant safety, and I hope he comes back for his senior year. That only hope, right? You have a chance to have two good linebackers, and then a very good defensive line. Like, this could be the defense that creates the team that turns the tide back to where SC is what SC is. Like, and I was who was I talking to? I was talking to somebody, and they were like, "Oh man, like, is SC going to win the national championship? Blah blah blah, this and that." And I told them, SC doesn't have to win the national championship. Everybody confuses like SC has to win the national championship. They only have 11 over the history of who they are, and they are a blue blood university. Same thing with Penn State. They don't have to win a national championship. All SC has to do is be a national contender every year, play in a New Year's Six, hopefully the Rose Bowl, and everybody's happy. You know what I mean? Like, a national championship just makes it a little bit extra better, but like, they just need to win enough games to where they're still a blue blood university, to where every kid in LA wants to go there, where they're playing on prime time in their bowl game, and that's what they have to be. So, like, this defense could be the defense that turns the tide. We win a national championship, kudos. Our goal is to own the Rose Bowl and to win the Rose Bowl, and it's been like that forever, and that's what we need to get back to.
No,
even with the conference change, we could still own the Rose Bowl.
Yeah. Oh, yes, sir. I mean, it's such a great point about the national championships piece, right? I mean, everyone sort of wants it's national title or bust, and you said it best. And we can go even further, Alfred. I mean, the 11, 9 of the 11 were before 1980. Okay, right. So we've won it twice in the last 45 years. Okay, so and no one is going to say that, it's been a drought or something to that effect. And it's been 18 years since the great Rose Bowl of USC Texas. So that was the last time USC was in the national championship game. So, this is a very hard championship to win. The college football and the college basketball championships are so hard to win that you said it best, Alfred. It's about being in that Final Four, being in that final mix year over year with the chance to win. And then you sort of let fate and destiny and injuries and timing and all of those things kind of take over.
Transfer portal,
exactly.
Yeah, like college. This is the good thing about college sports. Like, I think, and it's the talking heads from the other networks who put national championship out there. But Penn State, when's the last time they won a national championship? Yeah. But we know who Penn State is, right? Yep. Texas hasn't won one in 18 years. Prior to that, when was the last time they won one? Well, we know who Texas is. Here's another one for you. Oregon is becoming a blue blood university. When's the last time? That's why they have because they'll never win a national championship, right? So, like, the big logos, like Ohio State hasn't won almost 13 years. Yeah, when they beat Oregon, right? Yep. Like, but we know who Ohio State is. We know who Michigan is. Like, we know who all these teams are. Like, national championship it should be the goal But the goal for college football is win your conference, win your bowl game.
Absolutely.
That's your goal. And as long as we win the Pac-10 and in the future win the Big Ten, and the Big Ten is going to be so deep, it's going to be playing the Big Ten championship, right? Like, you know what I mean? Like, but as long as you win the Pac-12, win the Big Ten in the future, and win your bowl game, I want to go there. You know what I mean? Like, you still get national recognition. So the national championship pressure, I call bullshit on it. I'm not a fan of it. Win the conference, win your bowl game. You know what you know what you get from that, and that's the cure.
Absolutely. And it sounds like, Alfred, that with this defense, coupled with that great Heisman Trophy winner, with that plethora of receivers, that that 1 through 6 receiving room is just outright frightening. It looks like this could be the year that USC ends the drought. Because, Alfred, we talk a little bit about the national title drought, and that's, as you said, that's sort of very unrealistic expectations. But there has been a little bit of a conference title drought, right? Wouldn't you say? I mean, one conference championship since 2008, right? Since 2008, the only year SC's won the Pac-12 was 2018. And so that's really hard to believe that SC's only won the Pac-12 once in the last 15 years. But I think this is the year we sort of end all of that and SC brings it home.
Well, it took SMU almost 29, 30 years to come back from their probation. Yeah. And we got handed the second toughest probation other than SMU. And we've actually we've recovered from it. Not be fully back, but we recovered from it faster than SMU did.
Oh, for sure.
But you know what I mean? But like now it's the chance to say, all right, we're back. Like we have the depth. We have everything we need. We have kids who are starting to want to stay home and go to USC. Like, and NIL helps a lot because I'm always going to say this. Do you want to be a celebrity in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, or do you want to be a celebrity in LA? It's your choice. Do you want to sit front row? Can you sit front row seat at the Lakers game next to Kim Kardashian in Alabama, or can you do it in LA? It's your choice. Right. So there's a bunch of things you can use for NIL to help recruit. But like I said, you could call it a drought. And we were there last year, right? We'll more than likely be back next year. I don't see any reason why not. The biggest thing is we just have to be schematically correct on defense.
Yep.
We have to put as a coach, you have to put your players in the best position possible to win the game. Last year, I don't think Alex Grinch put his players in the best position possible. Hopefully, you make changes in the offseason, you watch all your film, and you put in new defenses, and you try to create things. And hopefully he's doing what he can to put that team in the best position possible to make plays. And if he does that, we're looking at a good year. I would tell you, and you mentioned the Heisman Trophy winner, and the teaser show is we're going to rank players. Where does 13 go on that list?
Oh,
that's pretty tough.
Way to tease up the next few shows, Alfred. Oh my God. It's the art of showmanship. Always leave them wanting more, and you've done that brilliantly to conclude.
Where does 13 go on that list when we rank all-time quarterbacks at SC? And there's a lot. And the quarterbacks is another tough one. Where does 13 go on that list? That's a good question.
That is a story for another episode. And we are going to get all the fans to tune in on that one because that's what's to come here in the offseason.
Definitely. Hey, Jamal, I appreciate you for stepping in, man. We're pushing through this thing. It's always good to have you. I love talking ball with you, Jamal. I get to see it from other side, and we have great conversations. Guys, this has been the Bet Online Salute to Troy podcast. We'll see you next week. You know how it goes. Live free, fight on.